All right, we've just come up on 2 minutes after the hour, so let me welcome all of you. This is the XchangeCore webinar that this time around is being taken over by the SABER 2.0 launch. SABER is the Single Automated Business Exchange for Reporting, and we're going to have a very good program today introducing the new version of SABER. Start off, actually I'm going to do away with the welcome around the country because we have quite a few folks on the phone, but we usually go around and let people introduce themselves to build the community. Our topics for today are going to be SABER 2.0, why it's there. Then we're going to take a look at the process, and we have Jim Williams and hopefully Barney Krukoff will be jumping in at that point, too, to talk from the private sector side and from the government side. Take a little bit of a look at who's participating in SABER now, and some little technical look at the architecture, a case study to take you through, but then the best part is going to be the demonstration. There we're going to talk about how you actually provide information to SABER, and that's going to be in a couple of different ways with Jeff Hahn from Boyd Gaming and John Mueller from Target. And what we've got is the chance then to look at where that information goes in a number of different ways. So let's take a look. SABER, private sector initiative. Jim Williams, who you're going to be hearing from in a few minutes, one of the initiators of the program, along with Brian Lowe down in Florida on the government side, and the two of them have been working with us for a while to be able to provide the kind of technology that allows the two organizations, two sides of that information gap to come together, from the private sector to the government side. And we focus on business disruptions. So the purpose really is to be that single means for the private sector organizations to put their information in and then share it out with authorized government agencies and other approved organizations so that that information gap gets filled. And it really is a question of what happens in the middle. Because what happens on either side, the private sector side or the government operations side, is going to be very, very different. You're not going to be able to impose on the private sector a specific set of ways of doing things in exactly the same way that you can't impose that on the government side. You got 50 states out there, and while there is some commonality across them, maybe there are some common technologies that they're using, how they are using them varies immensely. So what we're trying to do is deal with that private sector that has outage and closure and restoration information in lots of different formats. It's as varied as a spreadsheet that somebody in the operations center sits there and fills out or changes and sends it up to management. And that's all they really need to do. Anything that happens on the right-hand side is taking the private sector away from their primary job, which is getting back into business. So that collaboration that takes place from public to government is really where SABER comes in to make it seamless on the left-hand side and seamless on the right-hand side to be able to move that information. A simple spreadsheet is the way it begins in many cases. It can be more sophisticated. We'll talk a little bit later about Walmart. That is the first of many companies, I'm sure, that actually has some type of a service, and we consume that automatically inside of SABER. There's never a thought given to whether the information is there or not. This morning, everything is available, or everything is open and operating according to plan in Walmart, so you won't see any of the data. But it's the way to do it without even thought. It barely has to have thought associated with it the way we're going to show you, but it can be done at SABER's always there available to take the information. So it is on the private sector side that is all that's necessary to keep the information from coming in and moving across to the government sector. So, government side, many different organizations that are there that are going to provide that information. I don't know, wow, what are these things doing? Sorry about that. Many government organizations getting many different things from their crisis information management systems there in the middle, the common operating pictures, the mobile devices, many different formats. If you were to combine all the different things on the left-hand side with all the different ways of looking at it on the right-hand side, there would be thousands of lines going across this page. So what we're trying to do is make it simple. The goal is don't make the private sector do double work by entering their data into another portal or application, and to let them maintain the data in its current format and content and following their own procedures, thus bringing that information out from the private sector into whatever we're going to use to fill the information gap. And if I could ask Jim Williams if you now would chat a little bit about the idea, where it came from, and this whole process of why the private sector needs something like SABER.
Yeah, sure, Jim. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Let's see, a little historical perspective. Hurricane Irene was really what exacerbated our situation. At that point, back when Hurricane Irene occurred in 2011, I was with Walgreens, and we were affected across 12 to 15 states and a few hundred counties. And while we were tracking our open and closed status of the stores, the pharmacies, whether we had power, whether we had damage, because of the size of the event, we were actually inundated with requests for information. People were sending us WebEOC logins. It was just nonstop. And with a fairly limited staff, it became very difficult to fulfill everybody's needs. And actually, we didn't. So post-Irene, there was actually a meeting that was held at FEMA headquarters, and pretty much the same thing was being said by Walgreens and Sears and Walmart and Target and Macy's and everybody else is that we all experienced the same thing, which was, multiple requests for information. Fast forward a little bit into 2012, Jim Morentz was working with Brian Lowe down in Florida at the time, and they invited me on to join some of their calls because of the system. And one of the impetus is that, again, when I was at Walgreens, our largest install base of stores was in Florida, so it was almost 900 locations. So seeing this as a way that, more than likely, if Florida was going to take a hit from a hurricane, let's say, we were going to have multiple counties, multiple requests again, and we saw this as a way to seamlessly provide information, to the government sector. It was also discussed at the FEMA Public-Private Partnership meeting in the spring of 2012, and we had, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 22, 26 companies who all had experienced the same thing. So again, our mantra started becoming, give us one place to send our information and make it available, to any public sector entity. And that's the key part about what SABER does. The fact that we can send our information, upload our information once, the same information that we're using to brief our senior leadership in the company, in the same format, whatever our format was, can have it be consumed automatically by the public sector. And that's really the key to this. Over the last 2.5, 3 years almost, involved in different exercises, we've proven the concept. And again, one of our, even, with my colleague here at Sears, where I'm at now, Jim Waldrop, he experienced exactly the same thing, and we've sat in the same meetings, saying the same thing, that, we just can't log into multiple systems, entering data. And then, unfortunately, we ran into the same situation during 2012 with Hurricane Sandy, which, again, impacted our companies and across multiple counties. And we really, the requests for information were fewer, but it's still being adopted at the rate that we would like, and it still remains every opportunity that we get to talk to state level or county level organizations and some nonprofits and even FEMA still is that this is our preferred method. It's a little bit different if we have a tornado strike within for a county, but when you get into a larger regional, multi-county, multi-state event, it's virtually impossible for us to fulfill all those requests for information. So, SABER as the answer. And again, it's not a system, and it's not a GUI, a program. It just takes our information format that Jim will show you, can be consumed in WebEOC, eTeam, GIS, any virtual system, be hooked up to it. Just a little bit of the history, and that's some of the evidence on why private sector, especially large or regional companies, really, excited about this. Then we don't have to make any changes to our processes. We don't have to make any changes to the way that we upload information, but hopefully what it does is fulfill all the public sector needs. Jim?
Thank you, Jim, for that background, and appreciate the insight a whole lot. And if I could just remind everybody, please mute your phones. We got somebody back there who seems to be working their way through a used car lot or something. So please mute your phones so that you don't interrupt the speakers. And so that's the left-hand side for some, just because it's the orientation. The public sector is able to provide that information, or sorry, that says public sector. It's a private sector. Wow. Private sector operations center. So, Jim, thank you very much for that background and the demand placed on the private sector to be able to drive information out to others while you're trying to do your primary job. Now, I'm not sure whether Barney Krukhoff has made it onto the call. Barney, have you jumped in? No, he had a conflict. If we did this too early, he was perhaps not going to be able to make it. So if he joins a little bit later, we'll ask for his comments. But the focus on that is how to get that information out to the public sector, the government operations centers. And that is designed to make certain that we're using standardized format, the National Information Exchange model, and that people on the government side can use their own applications. Nobody has to go get anything else or bring any other information to bear. The solution has been sitting around for a while. It's used quite a few places across the country. It's called XchangeCore, and it's something called Web Service Data Orchestration. What it does is take information, match it up with the right people on the time, keep it synchronized, push the information out to those who have subscribed to it and are authorized to get it, and be able to provide the kind of coordinated use of information that comes from bringing all the things together and orchestrating the data rather than just a scattering of data all around. It was developed originally by the Department of Homeland Security, had major efforts put in by the Department of Defense. The private sector has made contributions, and we've just recently gotten a documentation on a contribution that's going to be made by Queensland, Australia, that has done work that will be added into XchangeCore. XchangeCore is a community effort now, has graduated from the Department of Homeland Security, is operated by a not-for-profit, currently fully operational and deployed across the country to do exactly what Jim Williams told you was necessary, and that was to be able to bring the information from one side, the private sector, and share it out to the public sector. Who's involved today? A list of some premier companies on the left-hand side, as well as other kinds of organizations representing a decent portion of the gross national product. On the right-hand side, an increasing number, Maryland recently just became part of it, as Barney was going to describe to you, of companies. And that's really where we're focusing right now. The information is available, we're drawing it from companies, and the purpose of SABER 2.0 has been to make it easier on both sides, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Technical architecture shows that XchangeCore is sitting in the middle. There's the SABER-spaced website up at the top side, and there are three different ways that information gets in. Information gets in if you just have a plain old spreadsheet. Information gets in if you have a live system, like I mentioned Walmart does, and that's moving back and forth all the time with some web service information taking place. And then actually Walmart's on the third one, the standard format, bringing in those geospatial standards through a web service utility that comes into XchangeCore. All those things are done once, set up, and after that it's either done continuously like the bottom two or periodically like the spreadsheet upload. On the right-hand side, multiple different ways to get it. If you just want to put it into your map, GRSS and KML formats allow you to do that. Mobile apps can use those formats or have a web service adapter, and you'll see one of those, and then you'll see the connection. We're going to use WebEOC as an illustration here of a crisis information management system. So the first level of the technical architecture is an open pathway. Everybody on the left who's providing information has agreed to the statement that is on the SABER-spaced website that I will know who is on the right-hand side, but they are under no obligation to control that information. This is the current operation. Everybody who's joined so far has said that's all we need so far, because I'm going to give you only information that I would give out to the public. So while I'm putting into government systems what I'm able to do, and I will know who those government recipients are, I can't control where it goes after that. That's the open pathway. Current operation is that way. Second level, though, is a secure pathway. Secure pathway has the same functionality on the left-hand side, bring in under those multiple different systems, same tools for exchanging that information. But now, instead of the open pathway and the green lines up on the right-hand side, you now have the secure pathway, in which there is a secure authentication required by any consumer, and that then forces them to be authorized by you, the provider of the information, to receive that specific information. So there is that wall there that can be built. It's not a technical issue. It's there. It's done every day inside of XchangeCore. It's only a procedural one for the SABER community to decide when it's time to do that. The present time, as I say, up at the top, information is open, and as a result, it's very easy for people to get that. Once you sign up on saberspace.com and register, you'll be approved to be able to get that information. So at a technical level, both open pathway as well as a secure pathway. So what's that look like? Now, we've got a real-world case study here, and I'll go through this quickly because we'll be going through it in the demonstration itself on how all this happens. And this first step is, in fact, the simple way. It's the spreadsheet that a retail organization is currently using, and that is available in their operations center. That existing spreadsheet in the past was emailed to lots and lots of different places. So our rule number 1 for SABER is to change the procedures of the private sector, not at all. Maybe a little bit, but as little as possible. We're going to make the technology work for us rather than the other way around. So what that is you take that spreadsheet and it gets uploaded into the SABER space organization. So instead of sending it places, you go one place. That is changed into NIEM standard compliant information incident data. It's the National Information Exchange model. Meeting rule number 2, which is we adopt standards for the data exchange. We're going to translate that private sector data structures, any format, any way that they want it, into a national standard, which we do for a very specific reason, so that people can read it. Rule number 3 is provide it once, share to many. On the right-hand side, government operations centers can immediately see the information. It's viewed by authorized agencies, and they can populate map viewers or common operating pictures that can be shared into incident management software, and then it can also be pushed out to mobile apps. That process, 1, 2, 3, 4, is the essence of SABER. The fully automated way that I described that Walmart is doing it is highlighted up there on the top because that's the 4th rule. That is, the first one is we can fully automate this process when the public-private sector is already enabled to do that. You don't have to do anything. You can continue using that spreadsheet format, but if you got the capacity, we can deliver that information out and you never have to think about it again. So rule number 4, automate whenever possible. But the real essence is that. Rule number 5, start with a quick win. That's the spreadsheet. And literally, in a matter of minutes, with you on the phone, we can get a spreadsheet moving into XchangeCore, through SABER, and out to those government operations centers. So let's start with a quick win, build this community, and then automate whenever the private sector operations centers are available and are ready to deliver that information. So that's the essence of SABER. It's been used multiple times. Let's see, here we've got some data that was shared out and highlighting a number of different applications, WebUC and Spot-on Response, and some Esri products and some Google Earth products there. A couple other ones. This one was actually used in the March snowstorms of last year, pushing information out to all of those different sources again. And then finally, this one, Hurricane Arthur, closer status down in the southeast part of the country. Again, SABER was operational during that time, have been operational on a number of different exercises as well. But now let's take a look. This is the fun part. Let's take a look at SABER live operation. And for that, I want to start by introducing you to how it works. And Jeff Hahn from Boyd Gaming, if you're on the line, I'd like you to sort of talk through this. We'll use your information, and you can give a little bit of background on your organization and why you find this is an interesting idea.
Sure thing. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. We wanted to, when Jim talks about an easy win, it was an easy win when we say, look, we've got 23 properties geographically dispersed, and we had the same questions asked of us during Katrina Rita was our big turning point when we said, you know what, this is an obvious place that we need to share information. So the information that we're sharing is very specific and oriented towards what people need. So the spreadsheet you're seeing now is the sheet that we use. Very simply, it's got the name, where it's at geographically, postal address, website if you need it. But what really gets into the heart of things are hotel rooms, and they will be broken down into rooms available for guests, rooms available for responders, because we'll get that all the time on when we want to flip the switch. Responders, we'll fill up our hotel rooms with responders first, and then later on, as we recover, responders move out, guests move in. So we kind of do that ever-changing as we evolve during the event. From there, we talk about what power we're on, and then the important questions. Do you have food? Can I get money? Can I cash a check? And that's the questions we get most often. As the situation evolves, those will again change. And the beauty of all of this is the ease of which we can update. So this spreadsheet here, very simply, our trigger is on the O column, and that's the status. So when we are open, normal operations, we don't appear on the map, as Jim alluded to before. When nothing's happening, you won't see us. However, when there's any impact, and we use the trigger word impact, we will then flip the switch on any one of those statuses and start filling in what we want to communicate. And if we find that rather than on the fly try and figure out, oh, we forgot this column, we forgot that column, we added a notes column just to say real specifically, if responders need information, call this number. Don't call the main number. Don't call the reservations line. Call our operations center or whatever the case may be. Something specific to that event, because we want to stay as generic as possible to cover all scenarios, but we need that capability of adding that one level of note in. So once we've updated our sheet, we're ready to upload it to the site. Real simple, real basic. Because we only have 23, although they're geographically dispersed, you know, we're not inundating like the number of our retail partners, but we do have some strategic locations, and especially in the southern Gulf there, that would become helpful, especially during hurricane season. So when we do that, we go to the saberspace.org site. We go ahead to the member login tab or the button there. So because we've already pre-agreed that we're going to upload this spreadsheet, we have a nice little easy button there. So we just click on our name. When we do that, now my file is going to be located in my command center or on my desktop. It's going to be on my network. All I have to do is find it. So all I have to do is go to Choose File. With that, I locate it on my network share, and this is the CSV file I'm looking for, and we found it handy just to have the basic one ready to go. We don't necessarily want to have 27 versions of it, so we just keep the same version. Because it's so limited, it's real easy just to update the one and keep track of the one. So we just go ahead and open that, just click Upload, and we just watch, and we wait for, there we go, we wait for it to send its message. 7 records, because I had 7 impacts, so I know something's changed. Those line up, everything's good, so I know exactly what went up there, what changed, and I know what's going to appear on that map. So looking at that, I go back to the redirect to login page, and all I do is double check. It'll take a few seconds to propagate through the system, but in fairly short order.
Yep, there we go.
There we go. I will see my icons there and the statuses that I uploaded. So the process itself, the toughest part is just updating the spreadsheet, getting good numbers from my folks out in the field. But as far as the update process, to get that up on the map is just those really basic steps.
And just pointing out here, these are all the information in Jeff's spreadsheet. There's the full meals and check cashing and the ATM website and all the rest of it. So all the information that's provided in the spreadsheet gets delivered out to XchangeCore, and then in this case, this is up on the SABER it's a status map on the SABER website that you can use to check, but it's also now available in all of the other applications that can connect in. And we'll take a look at those in a moment. Thought I would also ask, thank you, Jeff, appreciate that a lot. John Mueller from Target, he has a slightly different task because he has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stores, thousands, I suppose. Sorry, that's not the right one. Let's get you here, John. There we go. There we go.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, good, John. So take it away. I've got your spreadsheet up now, so you can describe that.
Great. So yeah, as Jim mentioned, we do have many hundreds of locations, so it can be quite laborious for us to kind of track everything. At some point, we would like to automate it, like was mentioned, but a quick win for us has been to use a spreadsheet in order to upload the data to SABER, to share with the public sector. We're able to take information from our SharePoint sites where we currently store our status information for all of our locations, and then download that into a spreadsheet so that we can provide it to SABER. So you see some of our locations here from the state of Minnesota. We often get asked, obviously, whether the location is open or closed, then whether it's on utility power or generator power, because that will be translatable to whether or not the store is fully operational or just the basic, a few overhead lights and the register still working. We'll try to put in there when we have the information when the store closed and when it plans to open back up, and then whether or not there's damage to the facility. So as we kind of go through activations when there is a certain incident, we'll keep this spreadsheet up to date. We'll upload it periodically throughout the incident, perhaps every 4 to 8 hours, so that the public sector continues to see those updates as stores close and as stores reopen. So once we have the spreadsheet in a good spot, similar to what Boyd Gaming just showed, we go to SABER Space as well. Go to the member login. And then also, because we're registered through SABER, we can click on our target link. Same process, we choose the file, find the spreadsheet on our desktop, upload the file.
And we follow a little rolling circle up there as we go. Target's been a really good participant over the time. As a matter of fact, it was the Target data was some of the first test data we were ever able to use out of Hurricane Sandy, which made it for a very, very nice test case in the early experimentation with SABER and how all this would come into play. There we go. It went through all those records that we saw over here, of which there were 77, but only 30 some of them are actually closed. You see that it parsed out only the closed status there in these 32 records that it's describing there. And if we now go on back to the page, we'll refresh over here, and here in the Minnesota area, you've got all those Target stores. Click on there and we see the information. There's the utility power that John was talking about. It's closed, it's actual opening time, address information, and other location information. So, any parting comments, John?
Well, that would be a pretty bad day in Minnesota if we had that many Target stores closed. So I'm glad this is a test.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you,
Yep.
John and Jeff. Appreciate that. Everybody can see how straightforward the process is. And quite literally, we spent 20, 30 minutes on the phone yesterday with Jeff revising his to make it a little bit more attractive, changing information to the impact and adding those notes fields. John and I never even talked yesterday. He was just going back and forth, a couple of email questions, and we got everything up and running easily. So, we've got data submission going in. We've got information coming out on the SABER site, but that's not where you want to go look, because part of the mantra was that you should use the software, you as government providers, you should use the software that you're using. So here's a Google Earth. Free, doesn't cost anybody anything, and what I'm going to do is start from scratch. I have this link over here that's in the user's guide that I'm highlighting over there in the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to copy that. I come over here to Google Earth, and I'm going to come up here to Add. I'm going to add a network link. I'm going to call that SABER. How about if we spell it right? SABER April 23. And then I'm going to paste that network link, or that link, right there. And I am at that point going to say OK. If I wanted to, I could go in there and actually provide the information and set it up so that it would frequently come in there and pull the information. But what we've got right here, let's go to Target first. We've got those target stores. And that same information that you saw on the SaberSpace site in the status map, you've got that same information there. This is now completely available to anybody who registers with SABER so that you can pull this information down. Over here, we've got, where are we? Out here in Boyd Gaming, we had that El Dorado Casino going on there. And there, the Joker's Wild. You saw that one earlier up in Henderson. Here's your ATM and check cashing, and no listing about rooms responsible, but the status is that impact that Jeff was talking about. So very straightforward. Add something, zero cost to the private sector. Let's take another one. Let me close that one down. Take another one. ArcGIS Online. This one, this is a commercial product at cost. Same process though. Here we've got a map that I've pulled up in ArcGIS Online. I'm highlighting a slightly different URL over here. Copy that. Come over here to my map and it says Add. Well, what do I want to add? I want to add a layer from the web. Click on that. What kind of a layer is it? Well, it explains to you that it's a GORS-S layer in the user's guide. I paste that in there. It says, checks it out, says this is a good thing. Add that layer. And there are those, well, let's go all the way back. There are a whole bunch of those features. I can come in here very quickly. And I can, where is it? I can change the style if I prefer to have something else and don't like those little funny symbols. Gives you the capability of coming in here and doing a bunch of different good things. Let's make all those red shiny things. And each one of these now has the same information. Boyd Gaming, not quite formatted as nicely as it is in some of the other applications, but there nonetheless. So I've moved the data there, and all this can be manipulated. The names are changed, the symbols are changed. ArcGIS Online gives you a nice capability to do that. Our point is, you got that information that quickly. Let's take a look at another one. Let's see, how about if we come over here. Got a WebEx set, or Web EOC set up over here. I've already logged into it, but I've got my XchangeCore instance. You notice these have turned red. These haven't because it's now found stuff happening out there. And bingo, here's my Web EOC. What do I have? Well, I've got my targets that went in there. I've got a next page that's going to show me Boyd Gaming, I've got the Macy's that you saw right at the beginning. All the information that's there, and if I want to come up there and look at that target information, again, bingo, not formatted wonderful. That needs a little bit of work that needs to be done. Not SABER's job. It's the job of the application owners on the outside. But for those of you who know anything, this is all formatted in an HTML format. So an HTML reader looks at it and sees it very, very nicely. So we got WebEx there. WebEOC. That again, I'm moving that same information back that I had seen previously, and it's able to be shown and pulled into every different kind of application that's out there and connected. Let's go take a look at one last one. This is the mobile app spot-on response. Same thing. I've got Macy's over there, and there's the information here. You see it's formatted a little more nicely. Boyd Gaming that we saw earlier, you can come in there and find all those. And in this case, it's just a feature of it. It gives me driving directions if I want to get out to that particular store. And again, all the information nicely formatted, able to see. Now, one last piece. A lot of people say, okay, can I see this in some sort of a list view if I don't have GIS and I don't care about all that? Well, this, again, needs a little work on the formatting, and we'll play with that. But here's my list of all that information that I had seen up there earlier. And you get a little bit of analytics. Here, actually, I'm going to refresh that so that we get a few more. And, yeah, now we've got Target, and down here we got Boyd Gaming and some of that Macy's. With this particular part, you get a little bit of analytics. I can tell you now that there are 12 of these facilities that are on generator power. I've got 20 that are on utility power. And this, haven't spent any time at all in building these categories of information, but we've got, actually have Eric Kent on the phone today, who's a specialist in doing this and is taking a look to see how he might be able to make some contributions to understanding this information better. So, you want it in text, you have it in text. You want it on maps, you got it on maps. You want it at no cost, you've got it on Google Earth. You want it easily available, it's built into the Saberspace website. And you don't have to do anything other than log into Saberspace to be able to see that. All because it's information that comes from the private sector in a number of different forms. Oh, that's right. We didn't look at Walmart, but there was nothing closed, so you wouldn't see anything anyhow. It comes in a number of different forms from a number of different organizations, becomes instantly available. Well, it might take a minute, but pretty quick to instantly available for any consumer who's signed up and become part of SABER. And again, this is the open pathway. The closed pathway is there, available, if you want to have only known receivers of that information in a parallel track, not a problem. Let's talk. So with that, let me come back here and see whether we have any questions.
Jim, this is Phil Balin out in California, and I was curious if collectively the different stores might think of showing a view of all their data, for example, themed by whether they were simply power or not. That way, rather than looking at an individual store, you might have a layer of data eventually that might just combine all the stores and show who had power, or maybe all the stores that were hardware related or pharmaceutical related that were open or closed, just to give more of a collective picture, not individually, but maybe by essential element, let's call it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. That's on the outside. The data's all there. Stores wouldn't have to be involved in doing that, except, as you mentioned, that essential elements of information. I think if SABER took a look and published, and we actually do have a sample template, but if we were to publish and say, gee, you know, having a nice column on power would be useful to everybody, maybe you ought to think about doing it. but the actual display and processing of that comes on the other side, the recipients of it. So you'd be able to do that in an ArcGIS Online or in a Google Earth. The queries coming out of SABER space and SABER get you part of the way there to be able to sort that data, but it's really a function that is done on the outside. But great idea, and it really does, I think your use of the phrase essential elements of information is key, because it does come down to coming up with some terminology that go into those spreadsheets or into those people who are delivering the information in an automated way. And I think you're right. I think there's probably a role for SABER in being a suggester of some of that terminology that we might be able to have the members of SABER over time begin to adopt. So good idea, Phil. I like it.
Murray Sanders up in Regina. Just a question around outage information, whether it's power or whatever it might be, a storm track or those kind of things. I see the feeds coming in. Is there a way to be able to gauge sort of the outage information and potentially color coding to give a time back up?
Yep, I think that that again is similar in Phil's side. You'd like to have it color coded. He was looking at it in layers, but all that is exactly right. And as we start to get this information available, then we need to start to get involvement from those who are visualizing the information. You saw the WebEOC. That would be one that I think could have a way to sort it by the terms that Phil was talking about. You saw the ArcGIS Online. I see that happening all the time. I can cluster into areas and come up with a number and a color. Again, SABER is the data source for it. That visualization is something that I think we have wonderful, rich opportunities to pursue. And with some of the talent that I know we have on the phone, we should be able to start to do that and then make it available for other people to share and use through SABER. At some point, I envision a sort of a conversation or download area where somebody says, hey, gee, I built this inside of ArcGIS Online to grab the SABER data. I'm now publishing it up here and sharing it out with you so that anybody else can grab that information. So everybody who wants to talk about that, I encourage you in what we're going to do in the next little bit of time. Some of our upcoming events are going to have a couple of technical workshops, and addressing those would be absolutely perfect. But before I get there, let me make sure I don't cut off any questions, because those have been really good comments.
Hey, Jim, this is Ron. I just noticed when they did the upload, you said when it went through the SABER during the upload, it parsed out and only posted up the closed. Will it show the opens as well?
That's a separate channel, and it's one that we've worked with a couple of the vendors to be able to do, where they'll take all those. Right now, the organizing group of SABER has said, we want to show what's bad. The data is available, as you saw, if the company is providing it. And there are ways that we can get that to you, just not part of the basic SABER portion of it. Actually, one of the vendors is that spot-on response, and they show open as well as closed when that information is available. So answer is yes, it's not inherent in SABER, but it's certainly available if the companies make that information available.
Roger, thank you.
Other questions, comments?
So, Jim Walter Pierce, Sears. The next opportunity to test this with you is during the May Cal EMA exercise?
Yes. Good lead in to the upcoming events. There are two things that the good place that we can do is this the multi-exercise that takes place in Southern California. It's a combination of Department of Defense, the capstone exercise run by the state, and FEMA's exercise. The California Earthquake Clearinghouse is your host, and SABER is participating in that. So we're going to encourage all the SABER participants to play as much or as little as you want. I've heard actually Target yesterday or day before was saying, "Yep, we're gonna play on one day. We'll give you an upload, and you can use the information there as stimulus, really, for the Earthquake Clearinghouse." And their members are everything from NASA to California Environmental Protection Agency. Actually, Cal OES is one of their founding members. Department of Public Health. So this can become stimulus material for all of those other agencies. So I want to get you signed up now if you haven't been participating in the past, and we'll be doing some testing during the week of May 4th, and it's during the week of whatever that next week is, the 11th or 12th or something like that. And you can play any time during the 4-day period. Second big upcoming event is right immediately after that. We have a Hurricane Information Initiative coordinating with a number of states that are interested in using this as a focus to bring in companies that are involved in the Gulf Coast and Atlantic Coast areas, and that then gives the opportunity to participate in various state-level and other hurricane exercises. And again, you saw how easy it is to participate in an exercise now. Any one of that information coming out of Target or Boyd Gaming, that's all you need to do. You can say a couple of yeses, a couple of nos inside your own spreadsheet, upload it, and that launches great exercise play. So thanks for asking that question. Welcome all of you to participate. And in fact, that's what the last point is here. Join us. Register at saberspace.org. As a government, to become a consumer. As a company, register to become a provider. When you register, we'll get you more information about participating in that exercise. And then again, in the 2 technical workshops that we're going to do, one of them for consumers, so that we can answer questions like we had, the great questions. Okay, if we structure the data this way, I could make better use of it as a consumer. That's something we can then feed back through the SABER Organizing Committee and begin to make recommendations to people to add that information or structure that information in that way. And as a matter of fact, I'll just stay on that for a minute, because it was with Jeff Hahn of Boyd when we were running tests on his information, and closed was the status that we were going to begin monitoring. And you'll see now how easy this is to change. And Jeff was saying, gee, it's closed, but I still could open for responders to stay in one of the hotels. And that's where, in bouncing back and forth, he said, it's not really an open or closed situation. It's, am I operating fine, or is there some impact that I want to tell you about? And based on that impact, here are the conditions that exist, one of which may be I have no capacity to do anything. But more than likely, I have some capacity to cash checks or use my ATM machines on my generator or whatever. So it was with that we actually changed the terminology from open and closed to open and impact. So Jeff now has a sliding scale of contribution that his casino and hotels can make when something goes wrong. So that's the kind of thing, and I think that's right where Phil was in saying that don't just give me all the clothes, but give me some shades of gray that I can begin to manipulate there, because that saying impact to power would allow Phil to then build a layer of everybody who had power impact. We've done a couple of sessions in the XchangeCore over the last couple of months on these essential elements of information. I think we need to learn those lessons here in SABER as well. So, technical workshop for consumers on that exact topic. And then for providers, I'm going to suggest that we may have some discussion on that in that technical workshop on how to phrase these simple words that then are used to key lots of other people into better understanding the situation that's out there. And Ron and others who are the recipients of this would love to have your participation there. So with that, let me see whether there's anything anybody wants to say about anything. Hearing nothing, let me say this is a great opportunity for all of you. We're here, no cost, no obligation, but participate. You won't be disappointed. This is Jim Morentz of SABER and the XchangeCore team wishing you all an excellent couple of weeks, and you'll get announcements coming out about the technical workshops that'll take place soon after the May exercise in California. We may be occupied between now and then. So, thanks everybody, and hope you join up and participate in that exercise. Bye now.